fall is always a busy time
Yeah.
because of night deadlines that we have to
Yeah.
sort of keep up with. And then after Christmas, and then you just do the experiment.
Yeah.
And then as summer ramps up, then it's busier, and fall is always the peak time for them. I don't know, it's pretty cool though. I'm doing pretty cool things. And National Institute of Allergies and Infectious Disease wants me to write a grant to see if the vaccine should be given to people on chemo. Because chemo takes like an immune system.
Right, right.
Wow.
So, but we can't take up chemo in human beings, so we are replicating the same thing in mice.
All set?
Because you can't.
Okay, it's 6:02. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item C, communications and correspondence.
I have none for the board this evening.
Thank you. Item D, public participation. Seeing none, we'll move on to item E, new business.
For the board's consideration, would like to amend the agenda by moving item 7 under new business, which is first read of policies, to proceed item 1. We have students here this evening who will be doing a presentation. I think it would be appropriate to let them go first so they can get home and do their homework.
I agree.
You ladies have a lot of homework tonight? Yes. Good answer.
Do we have a motion?
I make a motion that we adjust the amendment, the schedule to allow them to go first.
I'll second that.
Discussion? All those in favor? Okay.
Mrs. Wright?
Hi, good evening. Thank you for allowing us to be here tonight. I'm actually going to hand it right over to the girls to speak with you. They've spoken to a couple of you already. When we came back to school last spring with everybody, we were having a lot of issues with dress code. And there are some parts of our dress code that we feel weren't being updated. So the process was that Mrs. Omler and I met with a large group of students, anybody who wanted to come. And we met with them 3 times, I think, with the large group, and got a lot of their feedback, a lot of what they were feeling, a lot of what they're thinking and what they wanted to see changed. Then we narrowed that down to a smaller group that really hammered out language and things, picked a few things out of the full dress code and all the thoughts that people had. And then we narrowed it down to those that were willing to keep working on it and actually come present to you. And that's where we came up with these lovely 4 girls. This is Ellie Kane, Abigail Barnes, Sophia Rumsey, and Naomi Burmeister. And we're going to let them if you have any questions for me afterwards, I'm happy to answer them, but I'm going to let them go right ahead.
Hi, I'm Ellie, I'm the senior, and I'm going to start us off. Under item 1, it's under prohibited items of clothing under the last bullet. It currently reads adornment items such as chains, spikes, dog collars, and other items as determined by the BA, strapless tops, one-shoulder tops, low-cut tops, spaghetti straps, halters, midriff tops, and muscle shirts. And our proposed new language for that is adornment items such as long chains, spikes, or other items that could be used as weapons, and other items as determined by the BA. Tank tops with spaghetti straps are allowed, providing no other part of the bra is showing except the straps. Off-the-shoulders tops are allowed as long as some type of strap is evident on the shoulder and there is some type of sleeve. Midriff shirts are allowed to show 2 inches of midriff from the top of the pants, skirts, or shorts, providing the bottom of the bra is not exposed. Halters are allowed. No tube tops or muscle shirts are allowed.
And something that we noted specifically in this one when we were having our policy meeting is how thorough this group was in thinking of like basically every possible aspect of clothing item while they were talking through these. So thank you very much.
Right. And they were right about how this needed updating. You know, it's not that we need our policies to reflect fashion. However, when fashion puts out clothing only of certain types, and buying clothes then becomes too cost prohibitive to find something within the dress code, we need to take a look and see, is our dress code best serving our students? And this proposed change allows families to easily shop for clothes for their kids and not have to worry, okay, this fit her last week, I don't know if it fits her this week, but I don't have another shirt to send her to school in. We want to keep our kids happy. We want to keep you guys focused on school, and I don't think skin is an issue about not being able to focus in school. I think feeling comfortable in what you're doing keeps you focused in school. And this was, to me, a very appropriate and needed update. So thank you guys for your update on that.
Hi, I'm Abby Barnes. I'm a senior at Ellsworth High School, and I'm going to be doing number 2. Under wearing of clothing, first bullet, currently reads all clothing is to fit properly, be of appropriate length, and not be revealing or indecent. Add, shorts and skirts must measure 4 inches from where the leg meets the pelvis and must cover the buttocks. Skirts shorter than 6 inches must have further coverage underneath. Example, Nike Pros.
Once again, I think this is exactly where it needs to be. They really thought about, okay, what's the person doing in school when they're wearing these clothes? They're walking upstairs, they're sitting down, they're doing this, they're doing that. And they really thought about how the clothing moves and how they can find workarounds to still wear your skirts, but have something underneath it so when you're walking upstairs, nothing is revealed. And coming from the kids themselves, to have thought through all of these dimensions so much really says a lot about, you know, your dedication to this and bringing it to us and presenting it the way you have. I think this works for guys or girls, whether a guy has running shorts on, whether a girl has running shorts on, so long as you have the right pieces with it to be made long enough, then it works very well.
I also thought, something that I thought was really interesting was how much this group took a very broad requirement of clothing and made it more focused. Like the fact that it reads currently, all clothing is to fit properly and be of appropriate length and not be revealing or indecent, and that is according to whom. So this really focuses it in and says, okay, here's what this is, because when you're getting dressed in the morning, you may look in the mirror and think I look really nice, I look really pretty, and then you get to school and you get dress coded and you feel really bad because what you thought was appropriate was not appropriate by someone else. So this really takes that very broad bullet and makes it more narrow so people know exactly what is being expected. So.
Right. Less guesswork. We like that.
Thank you so much, because a problem we were seeing was it was very up to a teacher's interpretation. So making it very specific, we thought would just make it easier on everybody. And so thank you for recognizing that.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Sophia Rumsey. I'm going to be reading number 3 on the list. Under wearing of clothing, the second bullet, it currently reads, tops shall cover the chest, midriff, tops must have sleeves or straps. We want to replace this with top fronts may be no lower than 4.5 inches from your clavicle, and then take out midriff.
So this obviously, so you would be measuring from your clavicle. And I think we had talked about making sure that did say as long as no portion of the bra other than the straps is showing. So if your 4 inches from your clavicle happens to be here, you're not exposing anything other than the strap, like you might in a spaghetti strap tank top. So again, I feel like this really focuses in what could be a very broad interpretation.
Right. I think you're making it a lot easier for girls to know, am I going to school? Boys, too, you know, does this shirt cut out too much in which I'm going to get dress coded?
Yeah.
And it's very equitable in both directions, I think. Very well done.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Naomi Burmeister, and I'm also a senior in all of that. So, please add the following language regarding HCTC. The Ellsworth School Department reserves the right for particular programs, for example, the career and technical education, to add additional dress code protocols for purposes related to safety and training pertinent to industry. So an example of this would be like steel-toed work boots for the diesel program.
Right.
Yes.
Once
Yes.
again, beautiful.
Yep, and very important to have that extra wording in there because obviously HCTC has some different things that are required.
Exactly.
And something that we discussed the night that we had our policy meeting was, all of us were females in the policy meeting except for Dan. Dan was the only one who was not, and every single one of us has been dress coded at school. And we were, I mean, our school may have been a little bit longer ago than your current situation, but really, these dress code items are very similar to what I had in high school just 2 or 3 years ago. But they really haven't been updated since, and anyone who has been shopping knows that the tops are cut shorter, the pants, the skirts are cut shorter, and it can be really, really challenging to find something that fits, especially that's affordable. And, you know, it's never a good feeling to get dress coded, even when it's coming from a very sincere and very kind place. So making things more clear so that people know when they go to school, this is what is expected.
Yes.
So,
It's clearer, and yet it frees up a few things.
Yeah.
Like a bra strap is not, you know, at the end of the world here. You know, it's just, you know, I'm from the South, obviously, and we used to have a saying, you know, God made skin and skin's not sin. And, you know, that is the way I feel like we should look at it. This is, you know, so what if there's some midriff? Do our, you know, half of our athletic programs move and do things in which skin is showing?
Yeah.
You know, and we don't think of it that way in those situations, nor should we, or I personally just do not feel that we should look at that in any other situation.
and that was also something we discussed, specifically how hot it is on some of the upper floors
Oh,
of the
yes.
schools. So, you know, being able to wear a spaghetti strap tank top if it's 95 degrees upstairs is something that is not only, it's kind of almost necessity when it's that hot.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Right. I mean, and I can't tell you how many nice little sundresses I put back on the rack when my daughter was younger, because I was like, I don't think she can wear this to school.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think it was Abigail who had said, you know, dress codes can be worded in a way that make you feel very creepy as a girl. And I think that's right. Why would we ever take a dress code and make a young child or anyone else feel ashamed of themselves for wearing something like a sundress with straps, you know? And so this clears that up.
Can we ask questions?
Yes,
Of course.
feel free, yes.
All right. I have a question on this policy. What do we have against muscle shirts?
I think one of them can explain that pretty good. Yeah.
I think you can answer it because I
Because
think
they
I asked the same question the other night.
Because it was,
So, when we're talking about muscle shirts, we're talking about the ones that are like more open on the sides, because when you have those ones that are more open, you're seeing more of like the side, but you're also seeing into the front, and so that's what we're talking about when we're saying muscle shirts, and like that's.
So you don't mean sleeveless, you
No,
mean...
boys are allowed to wear sleeves. A boy had one on the other day.
Yeah.
You know, it had the open, but it was at a reasonable amount, so you're not looking at the whole chest. you
Yeah,
know.
we have to keep it, fair, because women
Right.
can wear straps.
Absolutely.
right.
Yeah.
Boys get hot too,
Exactly, right.
Yeah.
all right?
Right.
The second thing is there are a lot of numbers here. 4 inches, 6 inches, 4.5 inches. Now, as somebody who works in science, I mean, when I see numbers, 4.5 means 4.5. So, Is somebody going around with a ruler or?
So we wanted to make it very specific because a problem we were running into is what is decent to like what is appropriate to one teacher versus another teacher. So we wanted to make it very specific. And another thing we were talking about is like really Miss Wright should be the one dress coding people. And so it would be her, we were gonna bring a ruler, but we forgot it. But pretty much like it's a ruler and you're gonna have the kid hold it to themselves. And I know that's not the best way perhaps, but it's really the only way we can make the dress code specific enough. Because if it's too subjective, that's when we run into more problems.
I understand that, but 6 inches in a very tiny person and 6 inches in a very big person is different, right? So there'll be some
Well,
leeway.
right. That's why we did it from a specific point, because the proportion, we tried it on several different girls that day in the meeting, and where's that, and it was falling pretty consistently, and that's why it also has it's just proportionate to their height. Yes,
Mrs. Wright, I don't want to be a pain, but would it be possible for you to give that answer up here at the microphone? Not just because you're a skilled performer and a veteran performer, but for the public, Mrs. Wright.
I'm very
Thank you.
sorry. Okay. So we tried it on several different people, giving them the ruler and saying, okay, so measure this, and it's proportionate to whatever their height is on their body, although if I stand next to Abigail, her 4 inches is going to be theirs, and mine is going to look like it's lower, but it's not really, it's just because I'm a shorter person. But on my body, it's proportionate. So.
And something, the way that the school kind of does it right now, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, is teachers will send a referral to Mrs. Wright, and then Mrs. Wright speaks to the student.
Right.
So if the 6 inches on me, it looks longer and rests lower, I'm probably not going to get referred to Mrs. Wright, but that gives a very clear and concise number. So if a student comes into Mrs. Wright's office, because she's gotten a referral, she may be able to say, I don't really need to measure that because obviously it's long enough.
Right.
But if it's close, there's a distinct number that she can use.
Great.
And the reason it says, that's also why it describes covering the buttocks completely in the back, because clearly what's 4 inches in the front is not going to be 4 inches down in the back. It normally does not fit people that way, so that's why we're trying to cover everything here and make sure that we've got it, yeah.
A couple more questions, please. I've seen pants that look like they've been ripped, and supposedly it's a fashion. Are we going to leave that in?
If we were to take, once again, I think if we were to try to take that out, it could become a financial burden on our
Okay.
families.
So how much ripping is there?
So it's not about how much ripping, it's a matter of if their longest layer or their longest rip is covering to that point.
Okay, good, excellent. One last question. With diversity, are we making provisions for, let's say, if a girl wants to wear a hijab, or if a Sikh, not sick, but Sikh men want to wear a turban because of their religious or cultural beliefs? Is there provision in this dress code?
It's never been something that we would allow that, absolutely. If it's a religious belief,
I
yes,
just wondered.
definitely, yep. Yeah.
From what I
So
remember-
it's never been that we needed to spell it out, but we certainly have had a couple individual kids at times, and we've allowed that, yeah.
What about a kippah for a Jewish person?
Yes, yep.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't generally allow hats, and that is for safety issues, but if it's something like that, that's a belief system, yeah, yeah.
Mrs. Wright, how many kids get sent to the office because they're breaking dress code? Like,
Sigh. I get referrals, I usually get referrals every day.
okay. And what are
And
they
sometimes
mostly for?
sometimes it's just passing in the hallway, and sometimes it's a full referral down, yeah. I'm sorry, what did you ask? Helen?
What are they typically for? What is the biggest offender?
So the biggest offenders are the three things, frankly, that we addressed. The length is a real big issue. right now of especially the shorts. Because the kids are wearing a lot of the Nike Pro thing, right? I mean, they look like bathing suit bottoms. They're not much longer than that. And that's the biggest problem. Midriff would come in second. And even though it's modest, because what we told, the kids knew we were working on this too, right? Like a lot of the kids knew. And I think they thought we've already adopted it, because there's been a lot of midriffs this year. And, you know, we just had to explain, it hasn't been taken to the board yet. So we have to go by what we have in place right now, and we'll let you know once it changes. So that would be the next. And then the low cut is another one, and that's a very sensitive one. That's a very difficult thing, I will tell you, to talk to people about. For lots of different reasons, and that's one reason we decided to codify that one as well. So there's not the question. Now, once we start having kids, we implement the new one, and we're actually going to have the girls present to the kids to explain what's been done, right? It's not just getting handed to them. And I'm interested to see how it goes, because now it's their peers that have helped develop this. It's not just something that the adults are saying, you have to do this. So I'm hoping that they accept that and take that seriously. And the plan is, like, if they come down and the shorts are way too short, here's the ruler, you tell me, what do you think? And usually, they've got a pair of pants to change in their bag anyway.
They know it's coming.
That happens a lot. Yeah.
You say that you get more than one dress code referral a day?
Often.
Yeah. And how many are?
And let me just say, I'm sorry, let me also mention that can also be for inappropriate things on the clothing. We've
Right.
had a lot more of that as well. So it's not that it's just the girls getting referred. It can be for many different things.
Yeah, and I was going to ask how many, what's the proportion of boys versus girls who get?
It's definitely more girls to boys, I would say. It's probably 3 to 1, if I was going to just throw a number out there. But there are different reasons that kids get sent down as well.
Yeah, so offensive language and things like that?
Yes.
On shirts, yeah.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
I just have two questions. One is clarification, just for people that are watching. I've heard the term referral, or referred, as you just mentioned, Mr. Markosian, Mrs. McKinney, but I've also heard our young lady saying getting dress coded. I presume those are the same thing?
Yes,
All right.
basically, yes. Yes. We also did a lot of discussion initially with the big groups, because they all call it dress coding, but in their minds, it's if any teacher approaches them, if anybody kind of calls them out on it, and we had a lot of discussion around how that affects them emotionally and mentally. And as I think one of you mentioned, they come in thinking they look great, and then someone speaks to them, and maybe right in the middle of the cafeteria or in the middle of study hall, and how that affects. So there's some discussions also with faculty and staff about sending it to me, not, just being discreet and sending it on, so.
And the other question was, did I miss the conversation on the adornment items such as chain spikes, other items?
Yes, she read that.
I missed it, okay.
It's up at the top.
We had a longer
Yeah.
conversation on that the
Yeah.
other night. Okay.
Right.
all right.
It's up in number
I see
one.
it. Yep.
Yes,
Okay,
once,
you moved it.
once I went back and we were putting this together, we realized that was all in the same one. It was
Okay.
just the first part of that one, so it's all under number 1.
Thank you.
Yep.
So the change in that one is it removes, I think it removes, like dog collars or, so
It
that.
took
helps
dog,
with
dog collar out, it added long chain that could be used as weapon, anything
Yes.
could be used as a weapon, which
Right.
is the real issue with those items. Yep.
Thank you.
So the only other thing I think we should talk about real quickly, when Munir was talking about the 6-inch length rule, I know we geared this for high school, but we were hoping for something that goes throughout, but you did jog my memory. If we're talking about a skirt that is 6 inches, really that person should be above 5'2", because if they're below 5'2", it does give a different dynamic as to how Because if this were to go into the, because this is adopted for the whole district. So for a kindergartner, a 6-inch skirt is actually quite long. Do you see what I'm saying? So I'm just wondering if we, and instead of doing an age or a grade, if we do a height in which that has to be. I'm thinking 5'1", 5'2"-ish.
I think that might be a little too confusing.
How about
But-
if we use anatomical, 3/4 of a length of your, like, thigh bone?
How far would it be from your knee if you would, instead of
See, it's-
measuring from your,
Well,
instead of measuring from your bend of your
I know, it gets very
pelvis?
difficult because it's,
From your
and we
knee
were
up.
taking into consideration the longer conversation we had and still trying to keep it pretty clean and clear.
Right.
And that's why we figured if 4 inches is the cutoff, right?
yeah,
Then 2 inches more, that's where we ought to start wearing something underneath.
yeah.
So that's how we just kind of found a
And I would say. that
quick and
for-
easy way to do that.
Right, right.
so.
But as I said, if this were to be adopted for middle school and elementary, that really does present, because 6 inches for a kid's waist, or 6 inches from where the leg meets the buttocks, 6 inches from the leg meets the buttocks would be below their knees if it was a kindergartner, for a lot of them. And there's, like, so I happen to have a sister-in-law who's almost a little person. She's, 4'10"-ish. And I've altered clothes for her before, and I'm thinking to myself, this might be something that she'd have a hard time with.
So
She's-
6 inch, I'm 5'2".
Yeah,
6 inches is right there.
yeah. Well, but I'm thinking somebody a little shorter than you, though, that might be, as I said, especially if you're 10, 11 years old, that could be, that's what I'm thinking. I think maybe we should think about a height on this.
And that's for the board, I guess, to consider and.
Well, maybe that's something we could,
What
because we have to do a
language?
second read, right?
I was just
Yeah.
going to say,
Maybe
this
that's
is,
something we
Yeah.
could discuss at our
Right.
policy
yeah, this,
meeting.
this
and
this
then-
is your first read.
Not policy.
Any questions that you take back or any
Right.
information you'd like
Yeah.
from the ladies and Mrs. Wright can take back, and that may be something we could look at and maybe get some feedback from the middle school staff, Abby.
Yes, so maybe, Ms. Wright, maybe you and the girls could, bless you, could discuss, did you guys talk about if you went from the knee up versus the
No.
bend of the leg? Could maybe we,
Because I would just tell you, I'm thinking of one girl in particular who's very tall, lovely, very tall, lanky legs.
yeah,
And it doesn't matter which way you're
Yeah.
gonna measure that
Right.
on her, it's gonna look shorter
Right.
on
Right.
her because of her build.
right. All right, well, I think.
But it's not, if that's,
Yeah.
somebody write that down, if that's a thing.
Well, I think-
A suggestion can be that this can be the high school.
And that was where we
code of
started.
Conduct.
Yeah.
And
Right.
then how many violations in kindergarten,
I don't
but
want
there-
somebody sent down because of that.
But
That
there are
would be
some in
devastating.
middle school, I think,
Yeah.
that,
And then there should be another,
Well, you do have policies for co and extracurricular that are differentiated between the middle school and the high school.
Yeah.
So that is certainly an option here.
so I think we could look at that at our
Yeah.
next policy meeting.
Right.
And I do, again, want to stress how awesome these students have done with the work that they've put in, with the thought and the care that they've put in, how well they presented themselves this evening, and how well they presented themselves in what could be a very uncomfortable Zoom screen setting at our policy meeting. They've really done a great job, and I think you guys should all be really proud of the work that you've done. And I know one of them said to us at the policy meeting, that that they felt like this was something that they as seniors could leave behind for the students behind them. And I think that I find it really incredible that they're not just thinking about themselves for the remainder of their senior year, like, oh, I'll be able to wear this. They're thinking about their peers that are coming up through, and I think that's really awesome.
Very well done, ladies.
And I would echo that. The other thing I take as noteworthy, what they said to us in the policy committee meeting was, not only was it just the 4 of these ladies and Mrs. Wright, but they represented a large number of other students in the school. So you ladies really did a great job in the
And
policy
Mrs.
committee meeting.
Allmore as well.
And tonight.
Yes.
But also, you're doing a great job representing your school and your classmates, so thank you very much.
Good job, ladies.
Very good. Thank you so much for coming tonight. I really appreciate it.
it's comforting to know the next generation is.
Yes.
I know.
Yes.
So you'll get
Great advocates.
Yes, yep, we'll be meeting with the policy committee again.
This is up to you as a board, but one thing, if, these ladies may want to stay for the entire meeting, but you do have 3 other policies under this item. You can do a separate first read on this one, so it would give them the option of departing and getting started on their homework.
I would support that.
I would support that too.
Unless you ladies would like to stay, you certainly may.
And I do think, Dan, that when we have our next policy meeting, that if they are interested in attending, so we can further discuss that linkage, that we would be happy to have you.
I'm seeing some heads nodding out there.
So, Madam Chair, may I make a motion? Kelly?
Yes, please make a motion.
I move that we approve a first read of the policy JICA dress code as presented and recommended by the policy committee.
Second.
Discussion? I personally would like to discuss some of the language in here, but again, we can take that up at a later time and come back at a second read.
Okay.
All those in favor? Thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
Thanks, ladies. Good job.
Thanks, Mrs. Wright.
Thank you.
Bye, Noe.
Okay. All right, so we're back to new business, item 1. Acknowledgement of Personnel Committee action on behalf of the school board.
Would ask that you table this to your next meeting, which is 2 weeks away. You have authorized the Personnel Committee to act on your behalf, and this item is for your Assistant Principal and Athletic Director at Ellsworth Middle School. We're still trying to finalize a couple of pieces on that, but we're very close.
Okay. Thank you. Item 2, consideration of teacher nomination.
Very pleased to make a nomination to the board this evening of a math interventionist for Ellsworth High School. We were just able to finalize this in the process this morning. We did get a bio to be sent to you. We are nominating Natasha Mins as the math interventionist at Ellsworth High School. Building committee, and if you have any questions, Mrs. Corman Ramos is here. She was one of the building level committee members that interviewed her, but building level search committee was impressed by Mrs. Mins' clear range of tools in her math toolbox to help high school students who need support. She brings with her many years of working with students who didn't like math in the past and helping them learn to trust that she would find ways to help them learn and succeed. She shared with the committee great ideas about not only how she could work with students one-on-one, but could collaborate with other teachers in the classroom to help small groups of students and other teachers, after teachers have taught their group lessons. She was also excited to brainstorm with our new EEMS math interventionist in building a strong district intervention program to further support our students. And I can also tell you that references that I got from her previous supervisor in New York were outstanding. And one thing in the write-up that Rachel provided, back in New York, one of the things that she did during her time in the classroom, and also her time as an administrator, you see she spent a lot of time as an administrator, these were in smaller schools, so she was still in the classroom working with kids. That was her specific job, was to help students get prepared for making up their deficiencies in math so they could pass the Regents exam. So I think we're very fortunate to have this nomination, very timely. And I believe she will be prepared to start right away, as she and her family have moved here from New York and are already here and have children in our school.
Wow.
So I would like to make a motion to confirm the superintendent's nomination of Natasha Mins as math interventionist at Ellsworth High School with a first-year probationary contract for the 2021-22 school year.
I second that motion.
Discussion? Mr. Higgins, I loved her bio. I thought it was great, but I did notice that her background, she has a strong background in biology. So how did the math come into play?
Mathematics is an area of strength for her, and there's a crossover, obviously, with mathematics into biology. But she's certified in mathematics with the number of credits that she's taken. And when she taught for her 11 years, she was teaching math and science. Again, and Rachel, you may want to touch on this. I know in my interview with her, she taught, granted it's a math position, but she talked extensively on math, and it's clear that she is very well skilled and very knowledgeable in that content area. I'll give you 30 seconds, Rachel.
Yes, and,
Well, 45 seconds.
okay. In her most recent position, that was what she spoke with us most passionately, was about working with students who needed to pass the Regents exam in math. And so that was her biggest focus, was helping them. That was like the last piece they had, was helping them with their math skills. And so that was her focus in her last position. So that is her strength. And it's where her passion lies as well. So we're really excited. I think that she's the perfect candidate for exactly what we need and what we've been missing. And also I would say that one of our other candidates, Mr. Bates, was extremely impressed with her skills and her ability to talk about particular intervention tools, and how she talks about talking kids through the ability to break down pieces of math. So we were really excited.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All those in favor? Thank you.
Thank you.
I think that's really exciting because we've been looking for we've been hoping for interventionists
Yeah.
to be part of the budget and part of the school, and then to find one, it's very exciting. Yay!
Okay, item 3, discussion and consideration of PLD retirement plan option.
I think this is a pretty straightforward item. As you know, majority of your staff members are part of the Maine Public Employees Retirement System, or Maine PERS. Many of us recall it as Maine State Retirement System under the old name. But there's also a sister program to that called Participating Local Districts. There are some employees who, when they are first hired, are eligible for that and can opt in. What this change in the law is permitting is allowing that to continue, but also there are some people who, at the time that they make that election not to opt in, it's a once-in-a-lifetime change. This allows those people to opt in, so we have a few in our district. This would simply open the doors to another retirement option for some of our staff members.
I love it.
Great. Do we have a motion?
I recommend a motion to adopt the provisions of 5 MRS 18252C under Chapter 286 as allowed by Maine PERS Rule Chapter 803.
I'll second that.
Discussion? All those in favor? Thank you.
So thank you.
Okay, discussion and consideration of MSBA resolutions.
And you folks have probably received several copies of those resolutions. I know I sent them to you back when they came out. I sent them to you again. I believe Mrs. McKenney attended the MSBA regional workshop on this. So I would turn the conversation over to you folks.
So I attended this meeting last week, and for the most part, there were some minor wordsmithing that people had recommended, but nothing that would change the meaning of the language. I don't know if I'm hoping you have all had a chance to read through and.
I think it was fun.
And I think your assessment was spot on. It was, I think it was well done, the changes, but not substantive.
Yes.
Right. So I will make a motion to support the MSBA proposed resolution, revisions and additions as presented, and direct the ESB delegate to vote at the MSBA Delegate Assembly.
I second that motion.
Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Thank you. Item 5, appointment of delegates to MSBA Delegate Assembly.
Now, I believe at least one of you has served as a delegate or an alternate. Mr. Markosian, I know you have.
I've served as
have.
both.
Mrs. McKenney, you have. So if you want to explain to the rest of the board what that is, I know we have some new members who may not be as familiar with it.
Yeah, so the Delegate Assembly has one representative from each school district or regional school union, and they vote on the resolutions that are being presented. You can also participate in discussion about it. The Delegate Assembly usually is scheduled, it's typically scheduled for one session, which is like about an hour and 15 minutes long. during the conference, which is a 2-day conference. Very often, the Delegate Assembly stretches over into the second session hour. And I think last time, Kelly drew the short straw and was
It went all day.
the Delegate Assembly. It went, well, it started late morning, so it didn't go all day, but it went for most of the into most of the afternoon. So she missed out on some clinics that she had hoped to attend, but of course she could watch them later because they were recorded, because the whole conference was remote last year, and it's going to be remote again this year. So anyway, I found it to be a great educational experience to be in the Delegate Assembly and hear from delegates from districts all around the state. We've had some pretty robust discussions about some topics. Other topics were just, passed really quickly without much discussion. But it is interesting to be able to participate in that. So, Munir, you'll still be on the board when this conference happens. It's the end of October. And all the rest of you will as well. So I don't know how many of us are planning to attend. I know I am. Kelly, you are.
I am definitely.
Abby?
I'm hopeful.
It's a Thursday and a Friday. Beth?
Is it virtual
Yep.
this year? Then yes. Yep.
Munir?
I'll look at my schedule.
Okay, yeah. So anyway,
Yes.
I'd ask whether Abby or Beth would like an opportunity to participate as a delegate this year. And we appoint a delegate and also an alternate in case the delegate, for any reason, is unable to attend.
In addition to voting on the resolutions, there's also the opportunity, so I know we're part of District 4, and they're looking for an additional candidate to sit on the state board. And so that would be the opportunity for someone to nominate somebody to take that role as well.
Beth, you have,
And how often do they meet regularly?
I have no
believe
idea.
the state board, you're committed to, I believe, 6 meetings a year. I'm not sure about that, I'd have to look into that.
Yeah, and I don't think in the time I've been on this board, we haven't had a member from our district on the state board. I know Marlene Talent from Surrey. I don't think she's longer on the school board in Surrey, but she was for many years, and she served on the state board.
Yep. Long ago, I believe Dick Gray was a
Yep,
member
uh-huh.
as well.
He was. Yeah, I would concur with Paul. I think it would be nice, if there's anyone who's interested in serving at the state level, I think it would be a great thing for our board. We've always had a strong board. We continue to have a strong board here. I think the voice from this group representing our region would be wonderful. One thing that I would say is, when you think of the Delegate Assembly, though, as I'm seeing on the form, it's scheduled for 9:30 a.m. on Saturday, October 23rd. That's what the sheet says.
Oh, I thought the conference was,
That's what I thought, but
so this is this,
I'm wondering if that's a typo. This is the form they actually sent.
uh-huh.
So that may influence someone's decision. I always thought it was on the Thursday of the 2-day conference.
I think it always has been.
It always has been, is right.
Well, last year the conference was Friday and Saturday, wasn't it?
yes, I think it was. Wasn't it on
Maybe because it was
Halloween?
virtual.
Yes.
Or right before Halloween, it was, yeah.
Okay, it's October 28th and 29th.
Okay, that's what's Friday.
Okay,
Friday.
So are they doing the Delegate Assembly the Saturday before?
I find that very odd. I'm wondering if that's a typo.
Yeah.
No, it says here on their website that the Delegate Assembly will be held on the same page where they say that the conference is the 28th and 29th. It says that the Delegate Assembly is on. So that means that you're not going to miss any clinics by serving on the Delegate Assembly. You're just going to spend some extra time.
Maybe that's why they do it on a different day, so in case they go long.
Okay. Me and you.
Yeah.
It really is a good experience.
It is.
I'm up for it, but I don't want to take this from Beth either.
So do we make a motion to appoint someone?
Yes, you would make a
What-
motion. So there would be a motion to appoint someone and then a motion to appoint.
Okay.
So I move that we appoint Beth as delegate,
Yep.
and then I'm going to make another motion to appoint Abby as the alternate.
Discussion, are you able to do
I
it?
would be able, my only concern, and this is why you have an alternate, is I have a somewhat major surgery scheduled for October 14th. But it's virtual, so I should be okay. No, the surgery's not virtual. The delegation thing is virtual, you hear? That would be quite something, wouldn't it? You're gonna invent that for us?
It's close, it's coming, but not that.
So I think it would be,
Okay,
I think it would be.
all right, all right then. All those in favor?
So hold it.
Kelly's excited,
I got a
but it's not.
motion, but I think I heard,
He did two
Paul
motions
say-
at once.
you did one and you're
I
gonna do
said I'm
another
going to
one?
do the other, but I haven't done it yet, but.
Okay, so you did the first one. I did not hear a second. If I did, I missed. Abby, okay, sorry. So, Abby, gotcha. I'm the one that's slow tonight, I
It's all
apologize.
right. All those in favor?
Do I vote on this?
Thank you.
It's weird.
Perfect.
Now I
Thank
move,
you, Beth and Abby.
Wait, he's gotta do the
I move that
second
we
part.
appoint Abby Miller as alternate to the MSBA Delegate Assembly.
I will second that for you.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Now, folks, I will make sure that Beth and Abby get registered for the Delegate Assembly. But if you're going to attend the conference, please contact Teresa, and she will schedule to get you registered. Okay, don't do it yourself. Teresa will take care of it, but you just reach out to her by email or by phone. She'll take care of it.
This is October 23rd, correct?
That's the Delegate Assembly.
Assembly.
Okay, I'm just gonna put in there,
And then the 28th.
Conference is the 28th and 29th.
Third.
How in the world is it almost October?
I
Sorry.
know, it's coming quick.
Please don't say that, Beth.
all right.
All right, thank you guys
from the 8th of
for
October.
volunteering. All right, item 6, consideration of equipment purchase.
So Munir and I met with Dan to talk about consideration of some staging that we would purchase for graduation and other events. We've always rented this type of equipment in the past, but our conversation led to some questions that we needed a little more time to get the answers on. We're not under a time constraint here because graduation will be taking place in June, and this is equipment that would not receive much use over the winter, so there are other opportunities besides graduation to use it, but we decided to do our full due diligence and answer all the questions and make sure that what we're doing is, we're comfortable with what we're going to recommend to the full board, that we'd like to, a little more time, so we hope to come back to the next scheduled board meeting on October 12th and present something at that time.
Great. Do you
Yeah,
need to table?
Yeah.
As somebody who's fiscally conservative, the price tag was too high for me. And we wanted to know if there are warranties attached to it, or if it will last long enough, what's the cost benefit
Want me to
of
break even?
renting locally. Are there, also, one thing that came up was, is there a main company that could do this for us rather than us going outside the state? And, I'm sorry to say, but I just don't like spending money. So we'll come back to you on that.
Yeah, okay, awesome.
So we need a motion to table this for tonight.
I'll make a motion to table this for tonight. Let Paul and Munir do their diligence, ask their questions, and come back.
I'll second.
Discussion? I do have a question. Does this, are we considering purchasing a tent as well? Has that conversation happened, considering how many tents we've had to rent?
We've purchased 5 tents that are still up on school grounds right now.
Okay,
At this
okay.
point in time, we're not looking at purchasing anymore.
Okay,
This is simply staging that can be used for outdoor graduations and other other outdoor activities that, well, part of it's because of COVID.
Yeah.
Right.
It may provide a benefit further on, but the questions that Paul and Munir are asking, Mrs. Wright has them. She had answers to most of them already, but we'll be prepared for the next meeting.
Okay. And will these funds be from our COVID?
Yes.
Funds?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
One thing that I would mention is to look at how much money we've spent in renting in the last 5 years, because I remember that being a pretty hefty price tag to begin with. So if we can make a one-time investment and stop renting,
Yeah.
you know, because we do use it. We have a lot of things. We do.
And that's part of the cost-benefit analysis that Munir and Paul were talking
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
Well, we're
And
not-
I'll go right up front. I'm an advocate of it because, we had graduation outdoors this past year, and
It's great.
It was wonderful.
selfishly, I liked it. I thought it
Yeah,
was
to
great.
Me
me,
too.
for paying a high price tag,
You just want to
right?
make sure they're going to
I
last
want to
long
make
enough.
sure that we get our money's worth.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
If something we pay, this was what, like $60-something thousand, and we rent things from, for about $4,000 or $5,000. So if we're buying something that expensive, it better last enough
Right.
Oh,
to
yeah.
cover
Yeah.
what we're renting,
Right.
right?
Absolutely.
Otherwise, it's pointless.
Right.
Thank you for doing that research.
Yes, they really appreciate it.
And for thinking.
All right.
Yes.
All those in favor? Thank you. Okay, item 7, first read of policies. We have policy BED, remote participation in school board meetings.
So we discussed this, obviously, when we got rid of remote participation and remote, the ability for people to email in for public comment. We were in a different climate with the pandemic, and it went in a direction that none of us wanted to see it go or thought it was going to go. So we were discussing that it may be that we need to re-implement that, the ability for people to attend remotely and be able to submit comments, via email like we did before. However, we did discuss that it would be very important for those comments to be submitted before the public participation portion of the board meeting, so that those comments don't come in later and then interrupt the flow of the rest of the meeting. They would have to be submitted so they can be read during the public participation portion. And we also discussed that there would have to be a reasonable reason why you weren't coming. Even if that reasonable reason is that you don't feel safe, there needs to be a reason. You can't just be like, well, I kind of want to stay home and leave on my pajamas tonight, and so I think I'll skip the board meeting and participate remotely. But rather, if I was going to miss, I would have to reach out to the chair and say, here is my reasonable reason, and have that be approved in order for me to be able to participate. And I do believe Dan was going to do we've talked to the lawyers about this already?
Actually, what we've got is the draft, the first read that you have is the model policy that came from Maine School Management.
Yes.
And they work in conjunction with Drummond Woodsum. Also, what was included is the Drummond Woodsum overview of requirements for implementing such a policy. In essence, what you're talking about is a policy that does accomplish some of the things that Beth is talking about, but it doesn't require you to have remote meetings. I think we all prefer to have meetings as we are here in council chambers, members of the public here. But this gives you the option of, under certain circumstances, having a remote-only meeting, a Zoom meeting, or if it's a situation where, I think it came up the other night, if one of us was in quarantine or one of us was in isolation, we felt up to it, you could implement that as part of the piece. But also in the policy, it talks about if you're going to have that for members of the board, you have to provide that opportunity for the public. So what you've got is a first read of that policy, and really the only changes that we recommended in the first read were 2 items on the first page, which are talking about bodies with a statewide membership, which obviously does not include us. And the area of the board's jurisdiction includes geographic characteristics that impede or slow travel, including but not limited to islands not connected by bridges. And I think in Ellsworth, we don't quite meet that standard. So I think the policy committee was looking for an acceptance of a first read, but to take any questions or concerns that came from the board and take them back to our next meeting. And certainly, you've probably had a chance to read the Drummond Woodson piece, which is really well done. So, I don't know if I answered your question, Beth and Abby, or not.
Yeah.
One of the things I really liked about this is, knock on wood, we get an ice storm.
Yeah.
This could allow a board meeting to still happen, because a lot of prep comes into the, goes into this. But that way, because we would have that option, it's not just for COVID, but for other situations. Also, people, I think during COVID, we've learned, people can need to be remote for many reasons. People with compromised immune systems may need to, have a say in something and can't always be here. And this gives us, that opportunity to serve our community in that way.
Does this cover vacations, like somebody's on vacation, for example?
No. No, I think, if you look on the first page, it gives an emergency, maybe a state-declared emergency, or the board chair in consultation with the superintendent will determine whether there's a local emergency or urgent issue that requires a remote meeting of the board.
So if somebody's trying to get back and misses a flight, it's not their fault, and they want to be here, would they be able to participate?
I think this language here
It allows
would allow the
chair.
superintendent and the chair to say, is that an urgent issue or not?
Right.
That's how I.
Right, but if I plan my vacation and I'm still just hanging out and I'm happy to be on my vacation,
Yeah, but-
then that would be different.
Yeah, it'd be
different.
That would be different,
I'm
and
not
that would
talking
be
about that.
something that likely would not be approved by the chair,
Like,
but,
I'm in Chicago, I'm
Right.
trying to catch a flight
Right.
back.
and you're flying through Philly, I always
Exactly,
get
I
delayed in
was
think-
Philly.
thinking it.
I think the language affords us the ability to make that determination
Okay.
on a case-by-case basis.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, shall we move on to Technology Protection Program?
Yes. So this was another that we talked about, and this came from Laura Johns. And it just had a little bit of language changing, just to kind of include some things like food and beverage getting stuck on the keyboards and other parts of the computer and things like that. It just made the entire policy a little more applicable to all families, I think. And I think the wording came out quite good. But they were just a few small little changes in there.
No, I think that was it. That there was a couple words that were removed that
Right.
weren't necessary any longer, specifically in regards to warranties, because some of the
Right.
computers are older than others and whatnot. So I think Laura did a really great job of making sure that it was up to date and current, and those changes were pretty straightforward, as I'm sure you saw.
Great, thank you. The next is JKAA, use of physical restraint and seclusion.
I don't mind taking this one if you want. I know this is something that came out as a result of a change in law around physical restraint and seclusion. The draft that we received 2 days before the policy committee meeting, so we hadn't had an opportunity to work through it. The version that you have here this evening, I think we sent you several versions. One of them actually shows you where the changes would be made. Now, the first read you're being asked to approve, when you look at the changes in italics here, addresses some clarifications and more specific definitions than were in the previous policy. These go into effect on October 18th with the new law. I think the things you're talking about, it clarifies what adaptive devices and mechanical supports are under the section which talks about what physical restraint does not include. It changes what the physical escort definition is. It eliminates some pieces on other physical restraints that can be used. It also adds in some specifics with regard to documentation, healthcare directive, school-approved behavior plan, IEP or ISP, or a 504 plan. And it clarifies some additional pieces that we have to break down with regard to reporting. No longer is it just reporting the aggregate number of students who are placed in physical restraint, aggregate number of students in seclusion, but it also talks about breaking them down as to whether or not they have IEPs or 504s or not. So it adds some additional responsibilities onto our staff, but it's the state law. I know Carol Ann is already on top of it. She has provided copies of this to our leadership team. Obviously, we'll be doing a training once this goes into effect. But you've got the changes there. Our staff does a really good job with this.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, and
and we
it's
have-
also-
We have trained staff.
It's changes in increase in responsibility, but also increased protection
Yep.
for staff as
Yep.
well, and for students
Yep.
who would possibly be in those situations.
Right, and I think the Drummond Woodson wording was spot on, I think.
Does this include the resource officer?
Resource officer is, the current one we have is not trained in that yet. And I would also say our current resource officer right now, because of shortages in staffing, we don't have him in the school every day. He's there when he can be, and Chief Mosier has got officers in and out of the schools and the school property, so we're still well covered.
Yeah.
But our SRO is still having to do some shifts for the police department.
My question is, does this policy cover the resource?
This
officer?
policy provides an exclusion in the event that the SRO has to be part of it. We're required as a school department to have a certain number of trained staff in every building in a non-physical, non-violent restraint and seclusion piece. Our staff is right on top of that. So we probably have 25 to 30 at least staff in our building who are.
Okay. Because there are two types of, I mean, there's physical
Yes.
restraint when a kid is misbehaving versus like a real emergency
Right.
situation.
Yep.
Where, you know, I don't want this policy to affect the emergency situation, right?
No, it provides exclusions for certain
Okay.
circumstances.
All right.
Yes.
Clear.
It's a good thought. I'm glad you mentioned that.
All right, do we have a motion for BED, DIA, and JKAA?
Can I make a motion? Would you like to?
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
We recommend motion to approve first read of the following amendment policies is presented and recommended by the policy committee. The BED, remote participation in school board meetings. The DIA, technology protection program. The JKAA, use of physical restraint and seclusion.
I'll second that. Any discussion? All those in favor? Thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank the policy committee. It was a real good meeting.
Good job, guys, thank you.
And we were busy. We accomplished a lot in that.
Mm-hmm.
We did.
And had really great conversation with the
did.
students as well.
Except when my internet went out. I was gone for a while.
We had a nice conversation while Dan was gone.
We had a nice conversation when he was there too.
Right?
Yes.
Okay, that brings us to item F, calendar and announcements. The next school board meeting is Tuesday, October 12th, at 6 o'clock here in council chambers. And our next workshop is Tuesday, October 26th at 6 o'clock here in council chambers as well. That brings us to item L, adjournment. Do I have a motion?
Having no further business, I move that we adjourn this board meeting.
I will second that.
Discussion? All those in favor? Thanks, guys.
7:05?
I giggled because
Excellent, thank you.
7:05.